started. It is 4 o'clock. So good afternoon, everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the annual Fort Wayne Community Schools Middle School Speech Contest this year. My name is Lindsay Baumgartner, and I'm proud to serve as a middle school principal here in Fort Wayne Community Schools. Today, it's all about student voice. Okay, our young people over here will be sharing their hearts, their concerns, and their hopes through this year's powerful theme, What Matters to You? From community issues to personal passions, these students have worked hard to craft speeches that reflect what they care most about, and I promise you are in for an inspiring afternoon. First, though, we want to say thank you to the Pearl Arts Center for allowing us to host this event in such a beautiful and welcoming space. We want to thank also, we have our high school students, volunteers. They're around from Northside, Snyder, and Southside. Your leadership and support helped make this event a success, and we do truly appreciate your involvement. Before we begin, please take a moment and silence your cell phones. You'll probably hear this again. And join me in giving your full attention to these remarkable young speakers down here. So let's get ready for an afternoon of courage, creativity, and powerful perspectives. Who is up first?
Welcome, speakers, judges, friends, and family members to our yearly 8th grade speech contest. The focus of this year's speeches is a single question: what matters to you? Speakers from each school have carefully crafted speeches that address a community issue or concern that they are passionate about.
Each speech will be judged by our panel of judges, and judges, will you please introduce yourselves?
I'm Dave Meyer, Curriculum Coordinator for Fort Wayne Community Schools.
Amelia Miles, Communication Strategist for the Don Wood Foundation.
I'm Devin Filchek, Metro and Enterprise Editor at the Journal-Gazette.
Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge the hard work of the speech coaches at each school. Coaches, could you please stand? Friends and family, thank you so much for being here to support our speakers today. Before we get started, please check that your phone is silent. Once speeches are underway, please hold a pause until the end of each speech.
We'll begin with our first speech, Classroom in Crisis, from Violet Blosser, Aliyah Sad, and Man Nin.
Good afternoon, Fort Wayne Community Schools. We stand before you today to share our thoughts on the topic of teacher shortages.
Our goal is to persuade you and challenge you to approach this issue from a different perspective.
In this speech, we will discuss the factors contributing to teacher shortages in our city, the impact this crisis has on our community and future generations, and potential solutions to alleviate it.
What do you believe has been the most significant factor in humanity's survival? Most would answer shelter, water, or food, essential elements that have sustained us through natural disasters, wars, famines, and plagues. However, we argue that another key factor must be included: education.
Just as food and water have ensured our survival, the ability to learn and adapt have propelled humanity forward. Of course, our definition of education has evolved over time, but its importance has remained undeniable. It is arguably the primary element that has kept us thriving for so long.
So, why are we now facing an educational drought? Just as the rivers and lakes dried up during the great 1950s Texas drought or how the Henan famine devastated China, education too is experiencing a severe shortage, especially in our hometown of Fort Wayne, Indiana. We are facing one of the worst educational crises in recent history.
GreatSchools.com cites that 64% of schools in our area are below average, 32% are average, and only 4% are above average.
These numbers are alarming, but what is causing this widespread decline in academic performance? One major factor we must address is the teacher shortage.
A teacher shortage occurs when there aren't enough qualified educators to fill open positions, leading to overcrowded classrooms and students being taught by underqualified or untrained staff. This issue is particularly severe in Fort Wayne.
Education Resource Strategies, a national nonprofit that helps with resource management in school systems, found that 23% of teachers left their schools during the 2022 to 23 school year, 20% higher than pandemic rates.
This isn't just a problem, this is a crisis that has been building for decades, buried under layers of neglect and bureaucratic inefficiency. But crises don't happen overnight. They give us warning signs long before they reach their peak.
A failing education system is like a crumbling bridge. At first, small cracks start to appear, but they get ignored and overlooked. But over the years, as time wears it down, the damage spreads, weakening the entire structure until one day it collapses completely.
And now, addressing it feels nearly impossible. After all, no single factor caused this crisis. At its core, the shortage is driven by a range of issues, from low salaries to lack of appreciation. Though we don't have enough time today to analyze every cause, we will highlight some of the most pressing concerns.
The harsh reality of becoming a teacher. Imagine you're an aspiring teacher. You've dedicated 4 long, grueling years in college to earn your bachelor's degree in education. In those years, you have poured your heart into preparing for a career that will shape the next generation. But the sacrifices don't end there.
A degree alone does not make you a teacher. After graduation, you must complete student teaching, an unpaid full-time internship under a licensed teacher. For months, you juggle the same responsibilities as a full-time educator, yet receive no pay.
Once those exhausting months finally end, you think, this is it, I will finally become a teacher, but you couldn't be more wrong. Next comes the licensing process. In Indiana, aspiring teachers must pass praxis exams, a rigorous and financially draining set of tests designed to assess an educator's skills. Even if you pass, you still aren't guaranteed a job. With so many obstacles, is it really a surprise that fewer people are entertaining the profession? No wonder we are experiencing a teacher famine.
Teachers, the modern Prometheus. One can only compare today's teachers to the myth of Prometheus, the titan who risked everything to gift humanity with fire and suffered for it. Teachers, too, dedicate their entire lives to granting us the gift of knowledge, but are treated unfairly. Prometheus ends up being bound to a rock and having his body devoured by vultures daily. Our educators, in return, are punished by being condemned to low wages, overwhelming responsibilities, and constant burnout.
Indiana Public Radio highlights this reality. Teachers are essentially being set up to fail, says Bob. It's no surprise people don't want to enter a profession just to be underappreciated, overworked, and underpaid. And the ones who do often burn out from the sheer amount of work. The very foundation of education, our teachers, is being neglected and mistreated, and yet we have done so little to address this.
So we ask you, don't let this crisis be ignored. Don't wait until our education system collapses completely. Take a stand for the teachers who shape our future. Use your voice to advocate for change. Call on local leaders to raise teacher pay, reduce classroom sizes, and invest in better training and support. Support legislation that values educators as the backbone of our society.
Sign the petitions, write the letters, start the conversations. And most importantly, never forget that every great mind was once shaped by a teacher. If we want a stronger tomorrow, we must start standing up for those who built it today. Thank you.
Our second speech is titled Food Security. Three Truths That Should Make You Hangry, from Xavier Arnold, Princeton Collins, and Jose Mata.
All across our school this morning, students were served aluminum phosphate, diamond mononitrate, monocalcium phosphate,
By the way, if you don't know what these words are, you should not eat them.
diglycerides, lecithin, and chocolate chips, otherwise known as a delicious essential chocolate chip muffin.
After school, students return home to a neighborhood that has a plethora of processed food as well as plenty of alcohol and tobacco options. Hold up. My fault, y'all. Anyway, we don't have any vegetables in this food desert that we reside in, but we do have green swishers and Crown Royal to wash it down afterwards. So who's thirsty? The point I'm trying to get at is that quality food should be a right rather than a privilege.
However, food deserts in our neighborhoods, the quality of our school lunches, and the changes in Indiana SNAP program threaten the food security of students at our school. The Food Empowerment Project says a food desert is a geographical area where residents lack access to affordable food and healthy food options.
According to Google Maps, each of us lives in a food desert. Within a 1-mile radius of our homes, there are at least 10 tobacco stores and 10 liquor stores. The only grocery store is 1.5 miles away. Wait a minute, I need the new cards because Prince ain't here. Let me put these away, get these out. Secondly, we need to talk about the quality of food served at school. According to the Food Research and Action Center, whose mission is improving the nutrition of people struggling with hunger, healthy school lunches promote better academic performance, reduce health problems, and help establish lifelong healthy eating habits.
This is why 71% of students at our school shop at gas stations and convenience stores known for having loads of processed foods, and because they're closer than a grocery store.
I got the next part.
In our recent food security survey, 44% of students said 1 to 3 times a week the food that they're served at school is the only food that they have for a day. 20% of students said that the food that they're served at school is the only food that they have to eat every day. While it is a benefit to kids that serves breakfast and lunch, most of the food is processed and has dyes and preservatives.
Finally, the last threat to food security is the planned policy cuts for food stamps, otherwise known as SNAP. In our food security survey, 1 in 5 students indicated a reliance on the SNAP program. Additionally, 10% rely on food banks and pantries, and 6% rely on community meals to supplement for nourishment.
However, according to Diane Skazenbach, a professor who studies SNAP, a sizable number of people currently eligible for modest SNAP benefits will no longer be eligible. Some people think that food deserts aren't an issue because anyone can get to a grocery store and everyone should be thankful for free school lunch, and these new policy cuts will help prevent fraudulent use of SNAP.
However, according to our survey, many people do not have reliable transportation or enough food after school, and over half our population struggles with hunger in spite of the school lunch program.
In order to fix the problems of food deserts, we should turn vacant lots into community gardens and incentivize grocery stores to build in these barren neighborhoods.
Finally, to prevent the changes in SNAP, you should talk to your elected officials as well as supporting advocacy organizations such as Feeding Americans.
Are you hangry yet?
If not, then you should ask yourself why. That's about it. Yay, let's go. Porter's just so awesome. All right, I don't know who to give this mic to, so I'm just gonna set it down.
Thank you, Xavier, Princeton, and Jose.
Our third speech is titled Revitalizing Waynedale from Cassius Coates, Mandy Galdamez, Emily Guzman Zamudio, and Singh Jar.
Who here knows how many Fort Wayne community schools are located in the Waynedale area? If you guessed 5, you are correct. The 5 schools located in the Waynedale area are Maplewood, Indian Village, Waynedale, Kikiyanga, and Miami. Waynedale was established in 1921, where it began as an unincorporated town southwest of Fort Wayne with approximately 3,000 residents. Waynedale wasn't added into the city until 1957. We all agree that Waynedale is a nice place to live in. Everything is close by, and you never have to travel far to get to a certain place. But Waynedale needs lots of improvements. This can be made possible with the Waynedale 2040 Plan. The Waynedale 2040 Plan is a 10-year shared vision for the neighborhoods of Waynedale. The Fort Wayne Department of Neighborhoods has established a planning committee of neighborhoods and organization leaders to help make our vision come true. We want to start off by adding and improving sidewalks, streetlights, and adding more to Waynedale Park to attract kids of all ages.
To begin with, the sidewalks in Waynedale could be improved, along with the addition to sidewalks. To begin with, the sidewalks in Waynedale couldn't be improved, along with the addition of sidewalks to areas without them. On the Waynedale 2040 website, the residents of Waynedale are able to place comments on areas they would like to see improved. With 13 comments on the website, 8 of them mention areas without sidewalks. Some of the areas mentioned are Winchester Road, Bluffton Road, DeForest Avenue, and Airport Expressway. With 5 FWCS schools in the Waynedale area, many students like us may walk to school or even walk to our very own bus stops. Adding these sidewalks to some of these areas could improve the general safety of Waynedale. This can also benefit kids like us by giving us places to walk to, like the Waynedale Library.
Another way we can help improve Waynedale is by improving the streetlights. Have you ever wondered why some parts of our neighborhood feel unsafe after dark? This isn't just an inconvenience, but a safety issue that needs our attention. The Fort Wayne City Council agrees, and the Journal Gazette reports that they have approved the project to install streetlights aimed at reducing crime. Waynedale News also reports that Fort Wayne officials have addressed this as of 2024 and have stated streetlights are being replaced with LED to save cost. There are 35,000 streetlights and 50% have been replaced, reducing costs from $1 million to $750,000. But this leaves the other 50% to rely on outdated and unreliable lighting, which means large sections of neighborhoods in Waynedale remain poorly lit. These areas are more vulnerable to crimes and accidents, and residents often feel less secure driving or walking at night. So this is still an issue that needs our attention.
According to the cityofFortWayne.org, Waynedale Park is reconstructing the tennis and basketball court and adding new playground equipment to include all children aged 2 to 12. But what about us? We teens want to be included, and we have many suggestions. Waynedale Park is located at the heart of our town where many young kids come to play. We feel part of the money should be put towards ways to attract teens to the park. Teenagers participate in all kinds of activities during or after school, for example, soccer and football. These sports require large fields to play and practice outdoors. This will benefit both our skills and health. Moreover, socializing with people that enjoy the same hobby can teach us sportsmanship. We also took some other suggestions from my ELA class, and some of the suggestions are adding tire swings, zip line, gazebo, and obstacle course. By adding these, Waynedale Park can not just attract young children, but kids of all age.
As you can see, Waynedale could be improved by updating and adding sidewalks, streetlights, and adding more to Waynedale Park to attract kids of all ages. All of these suggestions not only improve Waynedale, but they also play a big role in the safety for our community. If you would like more information about the Waynedale 2040 page, please go to engage.cityoffortwayne.org. We would like to thank the 2040 page plan for recognizing the improvements that Waynedale needs, and with your support, we can make Waynedale a safer place for kids like us. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassius, Manny, Emily, and Singh.
Our fourth speech is titled A Thought on Mental Health by Razaz Musa.
I bet you've heard the phrase, don't judge a book by its cover. This metaphor highlights the importance of not judging based on appearances. Poor mental health often goes unnoticed due to its diverse symptoms and effects. Some people show signs like distress or worry, while others struggle with emotions, focus, or constant fatigue. This dilemma is relevant in the Hoosier State, particularly Fort Wayne, where inadequate mental health profoundly impacts its residents. Mental health is a problem in Indiana. For instance, it costs Fort Wayne Community Schools approximately $1.8 million. Moreover, mental disruption has crept its way into school systems. And additionally, more than 1 million adults experience a mental health disorder in Indiana alone. However, despite being often overlooked, reaching mental soundness is a significant challenge in our community. To start, mental health expenses are exponentially rising. People labored with a mental illness most often do not receive treatment due to its costs, especially those already buried in debt. A research brief from Indiana University in 2019 states, in total, the economic burden of untreated mental illness in Indiana was $4.2 billion annually. Even though therapy and counseling is free in FWCS schools, therapists are still paid through the state, tying back to the total weight on Indiana's economy. Thus, mental health is a proven concern that can be resolved with more accessible resources that aren't at the expense of our economy. Secondly, mental illness disrupts students' learning environment. Teens and adolescents are easily prone to attaining a mental health disorder because of pressure from peers, society, and themselves. An adolescent fact sheet claims 28% of Indiana adolescents, ages 12 through 17, have a mental, emotional, developmental, or behavior problem. Many students that have mental setbacks receive the assistance they need while attending school. All the while, there are still individuals out there that are in extreme conflict, and solving their situations is not as simple. To conclude, teens are simply vulnerable to mental health disorder, but education on the topic can spread awareness. And finally, mental sickness not only affects youth, but also the guardians and elders they surround themselves with. Adults can gradually obtain a mental health disorder because of stressful situations, financial responsibilities, and/or relationships. According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, in February 2021, 38.5% of adults in Indiana reported symptoms of anxiety or depression, with more than 1/3 of adults mentally conflicted. This leads to a loss in productivity levels, which can aggravate an economy. For Indiana, this could explain why the financial system may not be doing its finest. As a result, mental sickness in adults can tank our economy. One way to alleviate this is by providing better work accommodations for those afflicted with an illness. Some people may say that mental health is not a problem in our community because some mental issues are over-medicalized and can be coped with. However, society often conceals deficient mental health with the title of stress, when in reality, these disorders can restrain individuals from completing daily tasks. Although quite daunting, there are attainable solutions to abysmal mental health. Some of these include adding physical activity to your day, as well as a time for reflection. Ultimately, treatment is a crucial aspect that must become further available to all individuals. Consequently, mental instability is incapable of being repeatedly solved with surface-level management tactics. To summarize, mental wellness is an issue in Indiana, specifically Fort Wayne. FWCS spends a hefty amount on mental health without evident progress. Mental disruption has crept its way into our school system, and more than 1 million adults experience a mental health disorder in Indiana. However, by providing obtainable resources, workforce arrangements, and education on the matter can be the response to this predicament. Therefore, mental illness is a subject that shouldn't be taken lightly. Michelle Obama intelligently vocalized, when it comes to mental health conditions, we often treat them differently from other diseases like cancer, diabetes, or asthma, And that makes no sense. Whether an illness affects your heart, your leg, or your brain, it is still an illness, and there should be no distinction, because we know that our mental health is just as important to our overall well-being as our physical health. Thank you.
Thank you, Razaz.
Our fifth speech is titled Everyone Deserves Equal Treatment by Ov Wolf, Zaylee Snyder, and Kenan Rudenbush.
Why are you acting so retarded?
I don't know. Why is he acting so gay?
Oh, come on. You're acting like such a girl.
Things like this are said constantly because we live in a world where straight, cisgendered, mentally abled white men are treated better than others. Let's begin with considering that neurodivergent people should not be treated differently for not being straight, cisgendered, mentally abled white men. Neurodivergent people are treated as less than. And here's the thing, neurodivergent people are refused to even be evaluated for proper accommodations if they have good grades.
Which is against the law, mind you.
According to the NIH, 20% of neuro-autistic people recorded thoughts of suicide in the past year. The Pew Research Center reports, while 78% of neurotypical students report having close friends at school, only 34% of neurodivergent students report the same. The math behind that means that 34 out of 50 neurotypical students have close friends at school, and only 17 out of 50 neurodivergent students have close friends at school. RFK, the HSS secretary,
who's representing our country, by the way,
says, these are kids who many of them were fully functional and regressed due to some environmental exposure to autism when they're 2 years old.
This is entirely wrong and unbelievable.
Neurodivergency isn't something that can be handed to you like a platter of meat. We learn how neurodivergency is passed down through genetics in 8th grade science. So why are we saying you can be given a mental illness from exposure?
This is totally unacceptable.
That's terrible, Zay. Let's talk about how this also affects women, because straight, cisgender, mentally abled white men are treated better than women. Even with things like cyberbullying, there are 10.4% more cases against girls. And emotional bullying and face-to-face bullying has an even bigger impact, as emotional bullying I think has a huge impact. As rumors get spread, people get hurt, and authorities don't care. Girls also who experience almost double the rate of mental health who's the male students at 57%, while male students will record 29%. That is a 28% difference.
Oh my goodness, that's shocking.
As a girl myself, I can see how these statistics make sense. I personally had rumors spread about me, been mercilessly bullied, and have even been attacked, because what can a girl do to me?
And that is not okay.
I want to be able to walk through the hallway or down the street without the fear of being catcalled, grabbed inappropriately, or even worse. But sadly, I can't do that because of people out there who think it's okay to do these things to women, even though they are clearly just wrong and disgusting.
That's horrible. And I hate to make this worse, but the LGBTQ plus community is also not treated the same as straight, cisgendered, mentally abled white men. There is a systematic discrimination that creates significant barriers to educational equity and well-being. The Trevor Project reports that 49% of LGBTQ plus youth experience bullying at school because of their identity.
That's 4 times the rate of their cisgendered heterosexual peers.
That is ridiculous.
Even worse, 39% of LGBTQ plus youth seriously considered suicide in the past year. This is a problem, because no one should have to consider taking their own life because of kids mouthing off and bringing people down. Especially when we know LGBTQ plus teens that use their preferred names and pronouns had a 65% decrease in suicide attempts in the past year.
That is a huge decrease.
Some of you may say these issues are already taken care of, but that's clearly not the case if we're up here talking about it right now.
If straight, cisgender, mentally abled white men weren't treated better than everybody else, then why would anyone care?
Yeah, only 8% of cisgendered heterosexual white male students report similar safety concerns.
This has to be stopped. So how do we start to solve this problem? First of all, we need to teach more of the dangers of sexism in schools. If not, women will continue to be targeted, assaulted, harassed, hissed, ignored, and even raped. And that is not okay. Women do not ask for these things to happen to them, but the ignorance of others makes it seem okay.
I agree. We also need harsher punishments for people who physically and mentally discourage people who are in the LGBTQ plus community.
We also need our laws to change. We can't have leaders like RFK discriminating against the people of our country because of how their brain functions. So we need all of you to act today by calling legislative offices and telling them you want changes and you want them now.
Together, we can make a change.
Thank you all, Zaylee and Camden.
Our sixth speech is titled Fight Ignorance, Not Immigration by Braden Beckman, Logan Cross, Jarrett Lacona, and Ethan Miranda.
Fight Ignorance, Not Immigrants by Ethan, Logan, Braden.
And Jada.
Government officials, check your documents because you are entering a new country. Coming to a new country to live permanently because you needed to. Or maybe it was a want to be able to live in a free country. That is what immigration is. It seems so nice and so simple. But reality isn't like this. In Fort Wayne, especially Allen County, there is a massive number of immigrants. According to the American Immigrant Council.org, in 2019 alone, immigrants in the county held $496 million in spending power, $99 million in federal taxes, and $61.8 million in state and local taxes. Despite making up 6.8% of the county's total population, in 2019, immigrants represented 8.8% of its working age population, 7.8% of its labor force, and 5.4% of its science, technology, engineering, and math, otherwise known as STEM workers. We can see immigrants are a part of us. So why are they so badly talked about?
Immigrants should have a stable and balanced national security. People should have more sympathy and care for immigrants. A wide variety of people undermine the human rights of immigrants who aren't told and informed about the rights they have. Immigrants should be given a stable national security because of how long they've lived inside the United States. They have been here for years without causing any harm, and still they are being harassed along with their family, who is getting separated without telling them when or where they will ever see them again. Immigrants should have a balanced national security because there are people here who know their rights and have gotten their citizenship, but have had criminal records. Some immigrants don't know their rights, haven't gotten their citizenship, and might have a criminal record from a long time ago, but yet are still being treated unfairly for something they did years ago. Most immigrants have changed, but are we going to forgive them?
Another reason immigrants should be given a stable national security is because many immigrants have been here for years and are being deported unfairly and brutally. According to MSNBC.com, it states, if people are here illegally, just make them leave. This is unfair because they're getting kicked out after living here for many years and should have that chance to stay, because some people who are getting deported have no criminal record and have been living in the United States to establish and have a better life for their family. According to MSNBC.com, it states that host Kristen Welker asked Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, about the millions of families of mixed status, in which one parent is undocumented but a spouse or a child is a legal resident or a citizen. Would families simply be broken up? He dodged the question at first, but finally answered and said, I think, of course, you have a number of children who are currently living with drug cartel members, not actually their families. He's profiling and assuming children are living with cartel members, while in reality, children are living with their innocent parents who immigrated so their children can have better lives and better opportunities. They have and had no intention of causing any harm, and still, they're being discriminated against because they weren't born here.
Giving immigrants the information and basic knowledge about their rights goes a huge way. Most immigrants come here because they need to. It isn't fair that some people get to come here with the complete help from the government just because their country is more known for its violence or disasters. But others who are also going through the same things but are just not as popular or known don't get the same help. The president wants to mass deport these immigrants without giving them a chance to breathe. We can be the voice for these immigrants. They should be told the rights and have a more thorough background check. Making sure they've been here long enough without causing any trouble will be fair to the ones who are here innocently. There are bad people here, but that doesn't mean we should be smushing them together into a group that has nothing to do with them.
Immigration is a reality for millions seeking a better life in the United States. According to a statistics report from the U.S. Census Bureau, in 2022, over 46 million immigrants made the choice to start fresh, hoping for opportunity and freedom for their rights. It's time for change. Immigrants contribute to the workforce, start businesses, and help build our country. Yet many face unfair treatment, harsh deportation, and lack of information about their rights. They deserve a chance to live with dignity and security. We must advocate for fair immigration systems where longtime residents aren't torn away from their families deliberately. Let's ensure that immigrants are treated with compassion and respect. Demand that the government provides clear information and support for all immigrants. No one should be deported after years of contributing to this country without a fair chance to stay. Stand with immigrants because they are a part of us. Together, we can make a difference. Let's work towards a more just, inclusive, and compassionate future for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Braden, Logan, Jared, and Ethan.
Our seventh speech is titled Vaping, the Murder of the Mind by Lance Fitzgerald.
Vaping, the murder of the mind. Over 60% of middle school and high school students who use vapes want to quit. Evidence suggests that youth use them more than any other tobacco product. Although many teens who vape want to quit, addiction is not an easy thing to overcome. Vapes have the ability to cause lots of harm to your body. They can permanently injure your brain and lungs, along with altering your ability to learn, control your mood, and focus your attention. Vapes are becoming a serious issue for Fort Wayne teens, so we need to ban them. We need to do this because they are addictive and cause permanent damage to your body and your mind. Nicotine is the reason vapes are so addictive. It is a component in many tobacco products. Adolescents are 16 times more likely than adults to use vapes and develop an addiction to nicotine. This is because young brains grow at a faster rate than adult brains. There are three main reasons as to why teenagers try vaping. First, they believe it is safer than smoking cigarettes. Second, vaping is less costly, which makes it more accessible. Third, vaping shows minimal physical evidence, such as a lack of smoke and smell. As of 2021, over 2 million middle school and high school students in the US have admitted to vaping. Addiction neuroscience says individuals who initiate nicotine use at an earlier age are substantially more likely to develop nicotine dependence. Before the age of 25, your brain is still developing. When nicotine is introduced into your system, it harms the development. Vaping causes irreversible damage to many parts of your body, especially your brain and lungs. Popcorn lung, lipoid pneumonia, and primary spontaneous pneumothorax are major vape-related concerns. Specific chemicals can hurt your lungs, such as diacetyl. Johns Hopkins Medicine says, inhaling diacetyl causes inflammation and may lead to permanent scarring in the smallest branches of the airways, popcorn lung, which makes breathing difficult. Cadmium, another risky chemical, is also in many vape devices. OSHA.gov says, exposure to cadmium and its compounds is highly toxic and is known to cause cancer. Furthermore, chronic exposure to cadmium can lead to kidney, bone, and lung diseases. An article from the Mayo Clinic states, adolescents often believe that bad things happen to everyone else, but the risks associated with vaping are real. Some people may argue that instead of banning vapes and e-cigarettes, we should find safer ways to vape. Stat News suggests building a better vape that can be used as an effective cigarette replacement without getting people sick. They go on to say, if e-cigarette companies want to stay in business, they need to invest in the research needed to make safer products. One way to do this is to remove the addictive components and harmful chemicals. Vitamin E acetate, a thick honey-like substance, has been found in many lung samples done on people who have fallen victim to vaping. When ingested or being used on our skin, it has been seen as safe. However, when inhaled, it has been linked to serious lung injuries. Researchers argue that, if removed, it would be a big step towards creating a healthy vape. While this could be a solution, it might backfire. Companies could continue to manufacture toxic and addictive vapes and label them as healthy. It is a more logical solution to ban vapes and e-cigarettes completely. Vaping is an issue we have to face. Teens struggle with addiction and lifelong lasting effects that will make living difficult. The world we live in today is heavily impacted by nicotine products. Our youth is encouraged and pressured to try vaping and are so often unaware of the consequences. I do not want to live in a world where nicotine continues to be a growing problem. I do not want to live in a world where addiction is like a suffocating cloth draped over youth. Now, I ask you to think, what kind of world do you want to live in?
Thank you, Lance.
Our 8th speech is titled Why Current Events Should Be Taught in Middle School by Kevin Chester, Jenna Richmond, Kristen Roloff, and Savannah Wright.
Why Current Events Should Be Taught in School by Savannah Wright and
Jenna Richmond. Reasons being, it improves literacy, vocabulary, reading comprehension, broader understanding of global issues, and it gives you a more connection to perspectives of issues around the world.
Knowledge of current events increases media literacy and critical thinking. Media literacy is a set of skills to help someone, and critical thinking is the ability to analyze information objectively and draw rational conclusions considering various perspectives and evidence. Without media literacy, you wouldn't know how to fact check a piece of evidence because you wouldn't know if it's credible or biased. It can help you better understand people's opinions and help you make informed choices based on your point of view.
The next reason, knowing current events such as human trafficking increases our global awareness by letting us know and have an opinion about things going on in the world today.
It also helps us keep in touch with our safety and being aware about learning. It keeps us aware about safety. Being aware about human trafficking corresponds with past events such as slavery because human trafficking is a form of slavery. Not only in the U.S., but in Fort Wayne, it is a huge problem. Learning about it will keep us safe and make the right decisions based on what is happening in the world.
Another current event is gas prices. Many people are confused as to why gas prices are so high. Gas prices were lower around 2015 because of several different reasons. This was mostly because of a decline in crude oil. Crude oil is a naturally occurring oil like petroleum found in the Earth's crust. This was largely driven by increased oil production, specifically in the U.S., and a softening demand in global markets.
Knowing current events such as diseases and sicknesses, the benefit of learning about it will overall benefit our awareness of what is going on around the world today. When we have more knowledge about this, on this subject, it can prevent diseases, increase awareness, create new treatments, and help us know more about the diseases in our families. Knowing more about these diseases help us know who they are most likely to impact and where it's coming from. When we learn about these types of things, it can make us more aware for when we become adults and have more information on the world we live in.
The last current event is immigration. Current immigration issues can also be seen in history. For example, Anne Frank's family was denied several times of a chance to come to the United States. There may not be a particular reason, but many people still have a prejudice or bias against them. Examples are workplace discrimination, biased policies, and in everyday life, immigrants face harassment and physical aggression. Current issues can also be seen in history, such as this, because in an article called How Anne Frank's Family Was Denied at U.S. Immigration, it shows that their family was denied a chance of a U.S. life because of Nazi rule and American biases. In conclusion, with the advance of AI, it is more important for students to keep up with what is going on in the world today.
Being taught the skills to tell the difference between what is accurate and not will benefit the future of our country as well as our lives. Thank you. Thank you, Jenna and Savannah.
Our ninth speech is Walk in Our Shoes by Adele Hedinger and Maddie Wasson.
Okay, so this may sound a little crazy, but I'd like all of you here in the audience to close your eyes. So now, this also might sound a little crazy, but I want you all to imagine something. Imagine you're traveling city to city, but the thing is, you don't know where you are or where you're going. Now, I'd like you to picture yourself doing all of this by foot. That means you have no mode of transportation, no cars or trains or anything like that. And finally, I want you to imagine doing all of this barefoot. Feel the hard concrete under your feet and the shards of glass and nails and rocks. You can open your eyes now. Now you can see that, unfortunately, this is a reality for so many people across the world. And it's not like this is a history lesson or anything. This is happening right now. To people just like you, and people like you, and you. So many life stories that should be passed down generation from generation, grandkid to grandkid, they're being cut short right now due to a small cut or infection on someone's foot. This could all easily be prevented by getting them a single pair of shoes. And that's why Changing Footprints was invented. Back around 2005, two co-workers were watching a morning news program on Afghanistani children not having any shoes and dying due to it. So, looking for a solution, they created this organization.
Once Changing Footprints got their feet off the ground, they started their work here in Indiana. They operate as a nonprofit shoe distribution company whose main goal is to ensure that anybody who needs shoes has access to them. As their mission has grown, they've reached out and worked with many church teams, social service agencies, and even military personnel.
So now you might be wondering, why do they do this? They put so much time, so much effort, so much money into this one single cause. Well, they do this because the people who work there realize that the need for shoes is so great because it not only prevents diseases, but it also creates a pathway and a gateway to education and so many opportunities that they wouldn't get otherwise. They also realize that anybody can have a need for shoes, no matter your race, your gender, your ethnicity, or where you live. So that's why they distribute both locally, nationally, and even internationally.
It's hard to pinpoint the exact number of refugees who walk their paths without shoes because so many walk these paths every day with only what they had on their feet when they left. As many as 2 in 3 refugee children grow up extremely poor. And this poverty is a key role in why they don't have access to the basic needs we take for granted every day, like shoes. Refuge means a condition of being safe or sheltered from pursuit, danger, or trouble. Refugee means a person who has been forced to leave their country in order to escape war, prosecution, or natural disaster. That one E changes everything in their lives, from having refuge to being a refugee on the run with only what they had, not knowing when it'll be safe for them again. Some of you may not feel motivated to help these refugees that we are talking to you about because I hope all of you have shoes on out there. But that is your choice. But your choice could lead to the death of a man, woman, or a child in need of shoes. So instead of turning your back to this problem, you can put your best foot forward and do what you can to help the people who need you.
So now you might be wondering, how do I help? What can I really do about all of this? Well, I'm sure most of you out there in the audience have some type of shoes sitting in the back of your closet. This could be your aunt's ugly old slippers or those baseball cleats that you haven't worn since you were 9.
Before you got embarrassed and quit because you ran left instead of right.
Anyways, the point is you have some pair of shoes sitting in the back of your closet collecting dust. And those shoes can easily be donated to such a great cause. And even you, but not doing very much, can help save somebody's life.
As we reflect on the stories and struggles we've shared here today, I'd really like you to remember that your choice to act or not can impact a refugee's life for better or for worse. And those shoes, collecting dust in your closet, have the power to protect, to heal, and to give hope. Together, we can ensure that more people find refuge, not just in the sense of safety, but in the simplicity of a single pair of shoes.
So let's not wait for someone else to step up for us. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, even a size 1 pair of shoe, can help change someone's life and write a new chapter in it.
Thank you for listening.
And thank you for caring.
Together, we can walk towards a brighter future for all.
Thank you, Maddie and Adele.
Our final speech is titled Getting Ahead by Getting Around. Four-Way Need for Better Transportation by Serenity Billard by Celia P. and Alea Hill.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alea Hill, and this is Serenity and Calliope. And today, we're talking about something that impacts us all, transportation. You probably use some form of transportation every day, whether it's your car, the bus, or even just walking. According to Statista.com, 3.5 billion people rode the bus in 2023. But in Fort Wayne, we got a major issue with the public transportation system. Isn't that right, Serenity?
Absolutely, Alea. There are 22 bus routes in Fort Wayne, but many of them do not cover critical areas like St. Joe Center Road, Stelhorn Road, or Coliseum Boulevard. Those are some of the main roads in the city, so it's a huge problem that they're not covered. This makes it harder for people, especially kids, to get around. Can you imagine having to take multiple buses just to get to school or a part-time job, Calliope?
I can't imagine how frustrating that would be, Serenity. Plus, it's not just about the inconvenience, it's about affordability too. With CityLink planning to raise fares by up to 25% in April 2025, taking the bus is going to become even harder for families, especially those who can barely afford the current prices. Actually, TellFinancial.com says that the average kid, aged from 10 to 12, typically only gets around $9 to $12 a week. This means that if a kid wanted to spend their money on 5 all-day passes, it would cost them most of their allowance, and this is including the price reduction children get. It must be even tougher to get kids on the bus when they don't have the money to pay. Don't you think the city should prioritize this, Alea?
I think the city should prioritize improving the bus system. With over 270,000 people and 24% of them being kids, the city should make sure there's an affordable way for everyone to get around. But it's not just about the kids. The city needs to think about the growing number of tourists and visitors. Wouldn't they be confused by all the different bus routes, Serenity?
Absolutely, Alea. If I were a visitor to Fort Wayne, I'd probably give up trying to figure out the bus system and just take an Uber. That's not the way to attract tourists. Making transportation easier and more accessible could attract tourists and boost revenue into the city. FWCityLink.com says that about 1.6 million people rode the bus annually, but this number can increase if changes are made. The real question is, how can we make these changes happen? What can we do to get the ball rolling, Calliope?
Great question, Serenity. One major step is to increase the funding for CityLink. Right now, they get about $32,000 a year from the state, but that's spread across 66 transit agencies. If CityLink got more money, they could afford to add more buses and to extend routes to cover more of the city. Imagine how much better things could be if they could actually reach places like Coliseum Boulevard. But it's not just about funding. We also need to raise awareness, right, Alea?
Absolutely, Calliope. If enough people start speaking up, whether through peaceful protests or petitions, we can be able to push these improvements. Fort Wayne deserves better transportation, but we can make this happen if we all come together. Don't you think so, Serenity?
Exactly. If we work together, we can improve the system for everyone, children, visitors, and residents alike. It's about making sure we get people where they need to go, whether they can afford a car or not. It's time for a change.
Exactly. So let's keep pushing for better public transportation in Fort Wayne. We can make our city better, one ride at a time. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, Serenity, Calliope, and Alea.
This concludes all of our speeches today. Speakers, will you please stand? Let's give them all a round of applause.
At this time, judges will tally the rubrics to identify a winning school. While they do this, we invite the audience and speakers to join us in the grand concourse just outside the auditorium doors for a reception. All right, if everybody's back in, we can start with the awards. First, we would like to acknowledge each school in speaking order. Speakers, as you hear your names in your speech, please come to the stage to receive your ribbon.
So starting from Northwood, Violet Blosser, Aaliyah Sad, and May Nin.
From Portage, Xavier Arnold, Princeton Collins, and Jose Mata.
From Blackhawk, Razaz Musa.
From Lakeside, Ave Wolf, Zaylee Snyder, and Kendon Rudabush.
From Kikianga, Braden Beckman, Logan Cross, Jarrett Lacona, and Ethan Miranda.
From Taos, Lance Fitzgerald.
From Jefferson, Kevin Chester, Jenna Richmond, Crystal Roloff, and Savannah Wright.
From Memorial Park, Adele Heidinger and Madeline Wasson.
From Lane, Serenity, Ballard Bibe, Calliope, Gervais, and Alea Hill. And the winner of the 2025 FWCS 8th grade speech contest is Miami Middle School with Cassius Coates, Manny Galdamez, Emily Guzman, Zamudio, and Singh Jar.
This concludes this year's speech contest. Thank you again to the speakers, coaches, judges, student volunteers, friends, and family members who helped make this event a success.